Good morning, everybody. I'm Eric Brelsford. I'm a New York-based freelance developer and map maker. And I'm going to talk about a project that I helped start 6 years ago in 2011. And I'm going to tell the story of this project through the story of these two women, Shatia and Kristen, who live in the same neighborhood in Brooklyn. And they both live on the same block as this vacant lot. Kind of hard to see on the projector, but it's like an overgrown lot. It has a little bit of trash in front of it. It's not the worst looking vacant lot that I've ever seen. But one of them passed the vacant lot and saw a sign on it that looked like this. It was like, hey, this is owned by the city. Get in touch with us if you're interested in doing something here. And the other one was on a website and was looking around her neighborhood and found the same vacant lot online. And they both got in touch with the organization that created the website and those signs. And they started a neighborhood group and talked to the city and got access to that piece of land to start a project. So this is them cleaning up the land. That's in progress, but you can tell it's still winter. There's not much going on growing-wise. So the vacant lot went from something like this to this, which has a lot going on. It's not just a community garden where people are growing stuff. There's compost, there's art on the wall over to the right. You can't see it, but in the back there's a meeting space, so it's a community area where conversations that might not have otherwise happen. So that was a really exciting moment for us. That was back in 2011. That was soon after we started this initiative. And the initiative started with the question, where is the vacant land in NYC? And quickly became, okay, and who controls it? So if you're walking around a neighborhood in New York with vacant land, there might be a sign on that vacant land, but the sign mostly is going to tell you don't do stuff. Don't throw out trash, don't come in here, you're going to be fined. And then in the fine print, it's like, this is property of the New York City. So we wanted to change that for people who live in the neighborhood. So we started this project. We called it 596 Acres. Based on some not perfect data that turned out to be wrong, but it stuck 6 years later. So we decided to map public vacant land because we thought everyone in the neighborhood has some right to that public vacant land. And we wanted to work with communities to use it. We didn't want to just map it and make a nice visualization, although that is a great start. So we figured there were 4 things that we could really help out with. The first is getting access to the data. So this is 2011. The data cost a bit of money at the time. It was land use data by the city. They were selling it for, I forget exactly how much, but more than we could afford. And more than most people could afford. It's open data now. And once you have the data, if you haven't used a GIS or other mapping software, it's pretty intimidating data. So we wanted to open up the use of that data, both the access and the use. And for me as a developer, I was like, oh, obviously I'm going to make a web map out of this data and make it freely available. But we realized that once you find a vacant lot in your neighborhood, there are a couple of other problems. One is, how do you actually talk to the city to get access to that land? And who do you even start talking to? And the other is maybe more complicated in some ways. How do you work with your neighbors? If you haven't done this before, it's not obvious where to start. So we have literature helping people out with things that might sound obvious, like, hey, maybe you should have meetings. Maybe you should talk to people. So we made this website This is the old version. I'm going to show you the new version in a second. But we figured, like I said, we could help with the access to the data through this website, but we also wanted to help with working with the government and your community with the website. So that's what it looks like today. It's rebranded a little bit, Living Lots NYC. And I want to do the scary thing and do a demo. Yay. Okay, so this is a map of New York City. On the map, the green circles are public and vacant. The pink circles are places where communities have access to that land. Not all because of us, we're just mapping those also. And the idea is if you found out about this website and you wanted to think about starting a project in your neighborhood, you could go in here and type in your address. And I have one in mind here. And it'll zoom into there. And as you zoom in, the circles turn into the actual footprints of the vacant lots. And this one in particular has a star around it, which is exciting. That means there's something happening there. So I'm going to click on that. What was that? Okay. So you can, okay, what's going on? So you can see the vacant lot there. It's this tiny little sliver between a couple of buildings. Over on the left, we have information about the political boundaries that the lot is within. So which city council district, which community board, how do you get in touch with those people? Further down the page, we have the government agency. That's the agency that actually controls that land. So we have which agency and the person at that agency you're supposed to talk to. So don't just call up the agency and hope that you get passed on to the proper people. So that alone, that's opening up access to local government. That's the idea. Over on the right, we have 3 people who decided to put their email address and phone numbers on a website publicly. They're organizers, so they clicked this button over here in the top left. This is organize. And that means they're interested in doing something there. You can do this privately. There are 2 other organizers who are a little more shy. I don't blame them. But the exciting part about becoming an organizer is down here, this newsfeed. People can post notes, files, pictures. If you're signed up on the page, you get those updates by email. Yeah. So you can see if I was thinking about starting a project here, I'd see, oh, nobody's been talking about this since 2015. I wonder what happened. You can read through the log. There's a lot that happened here. You can see at one point somebody posted a PDF of a proposal for a project here with some great photoshopping that I enjoy, including like, there's going to be a chicken coop and compost and a barbecue and a meeting space. Really ambitious and awesome. And you can, like I said, you can scroll all the way back through. You can see pictures of meetings that happened here. Yeah, so that's how the site works. Hopefully, with these tools, groups get started and use the information here to talk to the government and get access to that land. That's the idea. So there are some other things on the site that I don't have time to talk about today. One is you can download this data. So we wanted to give access to this data as a spreadsheet or as a mapping file if you're mappy. And there are some fancy filters, like I just want to look at one city council district and shame that city council member or something. You can do that. And it's all open source. We have a framework called Living Lots that helps you make sites like this. And it's also built on open source software. So if you think of a site like this as some data that creates web pages, and those web pages have maps on them. We use 3 open source projects to make that happen. One is PostGIS, which is a mapping extension for Postgres. It's pretty great. The next is Django, which is the Python web framework. And the last one is Leaflet, which is a JavaScript library that makes maps. So we use all of these things together to make what you saw. And I want to echo what Kate was saying earlier. The website is great for certain people, people with internet access, people that know about the website for whatever reason, but that's not sufficient. We think it's really important to, if you want to have an impact on the local community, to actually get out into the local community and sometimes hang signs or do something else physical to maybe draw people to the website or just get them in touch some other way. So with these tools, we've helped 37 groups get access to land. If you smushed it all together, it would be 8 acres, which sounds, depending on where you're from, it sounds small. Here, 8 acres is pretty gigantic. So over the past 6 years, it's been fascinating to watch 596 Acres become an organization. It's a nonprofit now with fancy things like part-time staff that answer the phones and talk to people. It's great. I've also been really fortunate to be able to use this software in other contexts. So Philadelphia, very similar map, as you can see, stars and all. And also in Los Angeles. And back in New York, we've worked on a couple of other mapping projects as 596 Acres. The first is Urban Reviewer, which is a map of urban renewal in New York City. We realized that a lot of the vacant lots in New York are a result of urban renewal, which is something that happened over the past 60 years or so. So we wanted to better understand that, so we mapped it. Also, we've been working on this project, NY Commons, which maps public vacant land, but other things that might be under threat, like libraries and post offices. But it's a similar framework here. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, that was awesome. Good job. That's again another opportunity to use things around you.